Alright guys, I know y'all are probably getting tired of my videos for today, but I have got one more to do. I just, a couple of days ago, I just found out this YouTube app on your phone, and it helps you keep up with your comments and stuff, man. It's making things a lot easier, guys, for sure. So if I missed any of you guys' comments, I apologize, but hopefully this dashboard here, this mobile app, will help me keep track of those things. So yeah, we'll get it done, man. We'll get all the comments. I know the more your channel grows, the more comments, it's a lot harder, but man, if Bodegel and Raja and some of these other guys can keep track of the majority of their comments, I know that I can do the same thing. I'll probably never be as big as those guys, although I would like to be. I definitely want more subscribers, so if you guys are watching this and you're not subscribed, go ahead and push the button, man. I definitely want to share the little bit that I have learned in the little bit of time that I've been doing it, and I'd like to share other guys' channels that do know a lot more than me with you guys. So this dashboard is really cool, man. If you guys don't have it, I suggest you get it, the YouTube mobile app. So anyway, guys, so this video, I decided to go ahead, since I'm not really going to be running the LSTs hardly ever, I went ahead and pulled this Dynamite .28 out, and I'm going to continue breaking it in. Continue breaking it in on one of my buggies, and I'll probably just go ahead and leave it for just an everyday basher engine. So what we're going to do right now, and I know if you go back and look at John Bodegel's channel, he's got a video on this already, but I'm going to go ahead and do an updated one for you guys. So let's go ahead and pull the one-way bearing and the back plate off of it. We're going to put this Dynamite pull start eliminator on their back plate. It's part number DYN 1506. So sorry about the noise, guys. I watch Mark Santa Maria here. He's another Texas native, and he's got some real good stuff. He's got a good podcast called On the Tone. I'm not sure, I heard something about it not being on the air much longer or something like that, but check him out, Mark Santa Maria. Real cool guy. He lives north of either Dallas or Fort Worth, and all around RC guy, not dedicated to electric or nitro or one brand or another. I know he's sponsored by Techno for sure, and I think Proline, but he just built an NT 48.3 as well, and pretty cool. So check him out, guys. Shout out Mark Santa Maria, badass YouTube channel. Alright, guys, so I'm just going to pause that for a minute so y'all can hear. Alright, so what we're going to do, first thing we got here is we have a 2.5 millimeter whatever brand. Is it 2.5 or is it 2? I'm sorry, guys, it's a 2.0 hex driver. I'm using an MIP driver. If you guys don't have MIPs, get you some. They're not cheap, but they're the best tools on the market. As Muggy would say, they're the craftsmen of nitro. So on this one, you got 4. I'm missing 1, so we've got 3 on this one. But normally you have 4 2.0 millimeter cap head screws that hold the pull start in place. What we'll do, guys, is we'll repurpose the back plate bag, and we'll put this pull start in there. Be real careful when you pull this off, guys, so you don't lose the spring and everything. It's spring loaded in there, so if you jack with it too much, the spring can get messed up. What I normally do is I'll put a piece of tape over it so it won't come out. Alright guys, so right here is your one-way bearing, and the way the one-way bearing works is it will spin one way when you pull it to crank the motor over, but it'll spin freely on the back side. This is all brand new. If anybody out there needs this, let me know and I'll send it to you. It's not the only one I got. I got a crap load of low C pull starts and one-way bearings, back-plated one-way bearings. I've got roto starts for the LSTs and things like that. So if anybody out there needs this, let me know. I'd be glad to get it to you. Alright, so there's the one-way bearing. I'm just going to leave it in there with it. Also guys, when y'all go to put these one-way bearings back on, you're going to notice two sides to this one-way bearing. One side is going to have some writing on it. The other side is going to be nothing on it. When you reinstall these things, the writing on the one-way bearing goes towards the engine. That way you know. You want it to grab going counterclockwise. If it's grabbing going clockwise and free counterclockwise, you have it in backwards. So there you go. And you guys that are more experienced and don't mess with the pull starts and things like this, some of this information, just disregard it because it doesn't apply. If it doesn't apply, let it fly. Alright guys, so now we have 4 more 2.0 millimeter screws, cap head screws for the back plate. Remember, if you have a screw that is too tight that won't come out, put some heat on it and loosen up that Loctite. Normally they've got some Loctite on there from the factory. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Go with a cross pattern always when installing or removing. Alright, let's go ahead and pull this off. So before you pull this off guys, and this is with any back plate period, make sure that you send your piston to top dead center, not bottom dead center, top dead center. And the reason for that is sometimes when you pull this off, if it's at the bottom, it can catch the skirt on the piston, or it can catch can catch the wall of the piston and break it. It's never happened to me, but I've seen it happen before. So we're going to try and just pull this off. It's pretty tight. There's a lot of pressure in there. Alright, so when it's tight like that guys, get a flathead and be very careful not to break the casing, you know, the block. Oh, and before we do that, make sure you get all the screws out. That would help. It should just pull right off now. But if you did have to use a flathead, make sure that you're very gentle. Don't go cranking on it to where you break the block. Alright guys, there's your back plate. All this is spinning inside there guys. All this extra metal. There's a pin in here that you're going to see in a minute that sets in that groove. Alright. So it looks like the pin and the spring have already fallen out. You gotta be real careful, guys, because if you pull this off and you don't see the pin sticking out right here, then it fell down in there, okay? So right here is your pin. Right there. That's your pin. That's what sets in here. And when you pull your pull start, that's what turns the crank. And then also in there, guys, is this little tiny spring. So make sure when you pull this off that you don't leave either one of these in your crankcase, because that will be the end of that nitro engine. Okay, so alright, and there we have it, brand new Dynamite .28. Now these engines, guys, you know, they're not high quality, but I'll tell you, they're workhorses. If you take care of them, they'll last a long time, they'll always fire, and they'll run all day. So take care of them. Make sure you put your after run oil in there. You know, do all your after run procedures. So alright, so we're going to set all that to the side, and what we'll do is once we get done, we'll put all this back into the bag that the back plate's coming in. Okay, so let's go ahead and open this up. And this, when you get this pull start eliminator, this back plate, it will come with new screws. Okay, you don't have to use the same old screws. Just, I can't reiterate enough, guys, when you pull this back plate off, make sure that you get the pin and the spring. Don't leave that stuff in your nitro engine, people. Alright, new back plate. New screws. Alright, guys. So it's a little oily from the factory, so we're going to put some lube on this O-ring. Use a lint-free cloth. I just kind of wipe the very edge. And then what we're going to do, let's see, what are we going to use? I will use, let's use some 3-in-1. We've been using 3-in-1 all day. Always shake your stuff up. Everybody should have some 3-in-1. Alright, so we're just going to lube up the O-ring a little bit. You don't want to stick a dry O-ring in there. And always make sure you have a clean work area, guys. Use a clean blue cloth or pit mat or something like that. As clean as you guys can be, the better. You don't want any type of debris or micro dust or even a hair or anything getting in your nitro engine. Alright, guys, so you see I'm at bottom dead center here. Did it fall out on the ground? Oh, I'll take care of it, sweetie. Don't worry about it. Alright, so basically what you want to do, guys, is you see the cutout there for the piston. That's going to go to the top. Okay? Don't put it in backwards. Also on the outside, you'll see a little arrow right here. It's a little arrow pointing up. You want that to be up. Okay, so you're just going to insert it in. No big deal. Lined up. You're going to hear like a little snap in. It's going to snap right in there. Make sure your holes are lined up, just like so. Okay, so the next step that I usually do is I'm going to put a little bit of Loctite on these screws. Remember, they're brand new. And I'm going to put Loctite because if I need to get them off again, you know, and they're too tight, we just heat it up with the heat gun. And it'll loosen up that Loctite. A little dab will do you. Like so. And see my junkyard of bearings and parts and all kinds of crap, man. I have so much stuff like that. I went through a lot of it, got rid of a lot of it. This is kind of the T-Max and servo junkyard in here. I went ahead and filled my new tank, my Mesh Pro tank up with my favorite. I only use one brand and one flavor of vape juice. I found that was the best way for me to not smoke when I started. I use what's called Angel's Tears, and it's by a company called Hometown Hero. So shout out to Hometown Hero. It's really great stuff. And the way I do when I put a new coil or a new tank is I go ahead and fill it up, and then I close the air vent to where I have a little pinhole, and I'll suck probably 10 or 15 pulls through there, and then I let it set. Usually I'll let it set overnight. That gets everything soaked and well oiled, so you're not going to have any type of dry hit where you're going to burn it. You burn that coil one time with a dry hit, then it's not going to taste right. You might as well throw that coil away. So a lot of people will take 10-20 hits off of it, let it sit for a few minutes, and they're good to go. But I found that if you do that, the coil doesn't last as long. Within about 5 or 6 days, I'll be changing it. The way I do it, I can go almost 2 weeks with a single coil. So let that sit overnight, and then we'll transfer this one off to my spare vape. Okay, guys, so we're gonna go ahead and start putting these screws in. Again, 2 millimeter. You're gonna do a cross, you know, star pattern when you're putting them in. And you just want to tighten it to where it just barely gets to the edge there. Usually I'll let this Loctite, use blue Loctite, people, not red. Star pattern, get it to where it just barely starts to snug a little bit right there. I've put back plates on engines that shouldn't have had back plates on them, like the Dynamite Big Reds. They're not the same as these RTR .28s. They have a fixed crank pin, where the only way to do it is you have to replace the crank itself. But that's not the only way to do it. You can okay, all four are in there. You can, like on this one right here, what I did was I pulled it all apart. I pulled the crank out, and then I used my Dremel and I cut off the pin, and then I used a polishing wheel and I polished it smooth and put the crank, the con rod back on it, and then pop in my back plate. Everything was good. And this .28 runs badass in my buggy with a sealed back plate. But you either have to change the crank or you have to cut the pin off. It's not like this one where you have the spring and the pin and all that. You have to cut it off on these. And the same with some other ones. I did the same thing with my LRP. Some LRPs have fixed pins, some don't. Also on the Hyper 7, this one right here, maybe I didn't do it on the LRP, it was the Hyper 7 I did it on. Same thing. They have a Hyper 7 with a back plate, a Maxstar .28 with a back plate, but I haven't seen them on the .28s. I've seen them on the .30s, and you can still get those .30s. They're supposed to be pretty badass, but I was just not really impressed with this Maxstar .28. But I haven't really given it a fair shot. I've been too busy with all my other stuff, you know, my better quality engines. So maybe we'll put this in one of the buggies and really give it a fair shake. I mean, the carburetor's not too bad. It's a powerful little engine, but it came with a pull start just like this, but it had a fixed pin. I had to cut it off and then use a polishing wheel and polish the pin and put it all back together. Now they do have a pull start eliminator back plate for this. I just haven't seen any of the non-pull start Maxstar .28s. I've seen the .30s, but not the .28s. Alright guys, so we've got them all in there and they're just barely snug. So what we're going to do is even there, a couple of turns, there, couple of turns, there, there. You don't want to overdo it, guys, because you don't want to strip those threads. Once you strip those threads, that's it. Just go all the way around the star pattern. Try to do it as even as possible. Sometimes it'll feel like it's tight, but it won't be. You can tell because some of them will be sticking out a little further than others. Like this one is down all the way. This one's almost down. So this one's going to take a couple more turns. Right there. Good. This one's going to take another turn and a half. As well as this one. And that's it, guys. All these should be, they're not going to be flush, but they should be barely protruding out. This thing's got so much after run in it, man, it's leaking out all over my hands. Alright, so now you should be able to pull your piston down from top dead center, and you're good to go. Now you can run this in a buggy with a bump starter, with a starter box. Right there. Bam. Alright guys, so I'm going to go ahead and get I'm going to go ahead and get this other starter back plate back in the packaging, and always try and keep you know, a cap. When you're not using your nitro engines, try and cap off the carburetor and the exhaust port so you don't get nothing in there. Carburetor bolt was a little bit loose. Alright guys, and also it's good to put a cap over your inlet, your carburetor inlet there. And there's my mark for bottom dead center. Now that I'll be using it with a bump box, I'm going to need to mark it on the inside here instead of here, because your starter wheel will take that mark off. Try to go over them every now and then. Alright guys, there you go. One sealed Dynamite .28, ready to go into a buggy or a truggy. Alright guys, I know I bombarded y'all with a bunch of videos today. Hope y'all enjoyed. My video to the muggy there, that was heartfelt. I meant everything that I said. And muggy, the ball's in your court now, whichever way you decide to go. You know, I'll be disappointed if you don't want to patch things up or whatever. I mean, it's like a soap opera, guys, but in order for us to help people and progress in the 1/8 scale nitro arena, we all need to try and get along with each other. We need to try and help each other in every way that we possibly can. If we can't help each other, guys, we can't help the new guy. We can't help the next person. So remember, guys, treat people the way that you want to be treated. And this will be the last video tonight, guys. I appreciate y'all. Alright, we'll see y'all later. I'm out.